Next witness.
Sure, we would call Lon Klussmann, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I have you state your name for the record, and maybe if you want to spell your first and last name for me?
It's Lon Klussmann, L-O-N-A-L-U-S-M-A-N-N.
And Mr. Klussmann, were you in the room earlier when I went through the penalties for perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand what perjury is? And being advised of the potential penalties for perjury, do you promise to tell the truth in this case today?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Leibel.
Good morning, Lon.
It's my family.
I know. Can you first, I guess, identify for all of us your relationship to the women who testified?
Well, I can. My wife, Roberta, my sister-in-law, Marilyn, and my niece, Teresa. Those three are three of the seven partners of 8 and 2. And they have all given written approval for me to speak on their behalf in any manner relative to this proceeding.
Okay. Before we jump into kind of the testimony that you and I had talked about, one of the commissioners asked a question a little bit earlier about sinkholes. And I wanted to ask you whether there's any sinkholes on the 8 and 2E property.
There are, and it's actually surprising to me to see how rapidly they are expanding. You know, I've been walking that land for over 50 years too. You know, I may be an in-law, but, you know, I've been on that property since I was 16 years old when we were dating. And we would walk to a certain area near the windmill, which would be actually west and south of the windmill, near the section line on 41st Street. And there's a natural waterway that comes through there. And in the spring, there's water, and then throughout the winter, or throughout the summer, it dries up, and it's beautiful green grass and some meadow and everything. But each year we come through there, you know, because we don't go out there when the cattle are in. So when the renter doesn't have cattle in there, then we go out. And we, last fall and last spring, I guess it was, and 2 springs prior to that, we were stunned at the amount of standing water in an area that previously we would be able to drive through. And the sinkage, or the sumpage, or I don't even know the right word, slumping, I guess, that's going on. You know, the water comes underground. It feeds this well that, or they call it a well or a dam, but it's spring fed. It's underground water that bubbles up, and they dug a thing and made it for cattle to drink from. And so each year it gets worse, it gets deeper, and it's tremendously unstable. It's forcing other giant boulders up out of the ground that each time we go out there, we're shocked at how many more rocks we see. I mean, I can't imagine since Summit was, you know, demanded and sued us to have survey access, that when they go through there, if they can actually think that this is a place for a pipeline, then they're in the wrong business, because this would be massively unstable. If it's going to break, it'd probably break right there.
Okay. Now going back, so I want to kind of start by talking a little bit about the genesis of the development idea. And I know you had some discussions with Teresa's dad.
Oh, yeah. You know, Teresa's dad was, you know, a good friend. He was more than our brother-in-law. He was my friend. And we used to kid around about, what are we going to do with this land? You know, this was in the 70s when her uncles were already building subdivisions. And we used to kid around. We would say, well, you know what? Maybe North Dakota needs a prison. Maybe we'll sell it to the state and they can build a new prison out here. You know, it's just a joke. But we always knew that it was going to be developed. I mean, the geography of 140, 80, Section 24 means something, but what really means something is the southern border is 110th Avenue. The western border is 41st Street, which is also, you know, Bismarck Expressway. It's the same road. 52nd Street, 123rd. These are already on the city's Together 2045 plan as arterials and collector streets. They already know that they've already planned for that. So, so that location is prime for development. It could be commercial, it could be residential or industrial, but as our families talked about these developments over the years, we're very cognizant about the agricultural heritage that's important to our family. And this Dave Lehman 42-acre farm, which is her original home, it's a magnificent site. Original barns, corrals, houses that are 100 years old right now. It was in the movie End of the Rope. They use it as seen from there. But anyway, the man that's bought that land has an agrarian background, and he wants to preserve it. He's not, modernizing it. He's making it historic. And so and we've talked to him about the subdivision plan that we have. The style of homes would be farmhouse style. We're doing 10-acre lots so that we can provide for and be able to maintain the agricultural heritage, so to speak, of the land itself, and also to enhance what he's doing. We were not building cookie-cutter housing with, half-acre or 1-acre lots. This is going to be the most ideal living experience in Burleigh County.
And now, before we move on, Lon, you talked a little bit about the arterial streets, and for a lot of us in Bismarck, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, but Costco has kind of become a North Bismarck beacon.
Yes.
So if I'm driving out of the parking lot of Costco, how do I get to 8 and 2E?
Well, you would go out to Highway 83. You would go 4 miles north to 110th Avenue, and you would take a right, and 2 miles later, you'd be sitting at 8 and 2.
Okay.
It is 1 mile, maybe a mile and a half directly east of Heritage Preserves subdivision, which you see on the highway as you.
Okay. Now, we've passed out a exhibit that you had provided to me, and we'd like to mark that as LK1. The first few pages of this exhibit it looks like housing plans.
Oh, yes.
You had talked a little bit about your interest in preserving a rural heritage and providing a subdivision that's rural in nature.
Correct.
Can you explain the significance of why you wanted this information provided to the
Well, because we know that what housing styles look like in Bismarck, and we know what all these beautiful subdivisions and the style of homes that are being built. It's kind of there's a lot of similarity between neighborhoods in Bismarck. And because this subdivision is going to be different than any other subdivision in Burleigh County, we wanted to be sure that the home sites looked like old farmhouse-style homes. And we have an acquaintance who's an architect that has all of these plans, and these are pages from her book called Farmhouse-Style Homes. And they run in various sizes, but we're not going to be the builders of them. There's going to be a lot of strict rules and covenants and HOAs type of rules to make sure that the agricultural heritage and the pristine scenery and everything is going to be maintained. Probably going to end up being a gated community.
And so the Lon, you were talking a little bit about the plans and intentions. So the next 4 pages of this exhibit include 4 separate subdivision concepts. Can you explain to the commission why there are multiple concepts that is in your plan?
Well, part of it is because we chose 10-acre plots for a number of reasons, but one of them is in Bismarck's Together 2045 future plans, they suggest that in this outlying suburban area, lot sizes should be 8 to 10 acres. So we felt immediately that 10 acres is going to be our goal. And we wanted to include meandering roads and things like that so that we could use the low-lying sinking areas as park and meadow, where even though they're lots, Some of them are indicated as park, some of them are indicated as meadow, and they're probably, wouldn't be sold for residential. They would be maintained as rural. I mean, somebody could hay them, I guess, if they wanted to. So we had concept 1, and then we thought about concept 2, and then we met with the county and determined, through procedures and zoning and rules and regulations and fires and whatnot, fire people and highway people, that we may need more entrances to the neighborhood. So that changed some of the layouts, and so we've had 4 revisions, and it's continuing to evolve. The idea now that we have, to use an area for equestrian, a community horse stable, if you will, so that there's a massive pent-up demand for horse acreage in this part of the country, so we were going to accommodate that too. So there'll probably be a concept 5 that's going to be worked on in the next month.
Okay.
So it's changes, but it is going to be spectacular. It's going to take a long time. I mean, it'll be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but we have 29 descendants. They're going to take over this. It's all well established. It's on record at the county of our intentions and everything.
So you have met with county officials?
Oh yeah, we've had all the meetings. The next step is public hearing. But we can't, as soon as we resolve exactly how we want to lay this thing out, we're just short of that step. But yeah, we regularly have conversation.
And I'm going to direct the commission to the next, essentially the last page of the exhibit, which shows the proposed pipeline superimposed on your concept 4. Is that accurate?
That is correct. It is entering on 52nd Street. It shoots directly, dissectingly northwest to 41st Street. This is 5,700 miles of pipe. 2,000 miles total. We get a mile of it, they think. We're not going to allow it. For 99 years, we don't want to partner with these people. It's going to destroy this entire thing. This land, without a pipeline, it has unlimited potential. With a pipeline, it is desolate.
Well, and I'm going to ask some specific questions about that. First of all, I don't know if you're aware, Lon, I had sent it to you late last night. There was a bunch of stuff filed, and one of the things Summit filed was a document that suggests to the commission that it will take the city of Bismarck approximately 185 years to expand to the proposed pipeline route. Have you had a chance to see that?
I did see it, and I of course I broke out laughing. In 1776, our country was founded. 185 years later was 1961. We built an entire country, coast to coast, border to border, in 185 years.
And just
so for the assumption that it would take 185 years to go 4 miles north of Bismarck is patently absurd. It's just, the guy that said that must have been the same guy that drew this pipeline route. Because they don't know diddly about.
Well, and I just want to make clear, you would disagree with the conclusion.
I would 100% disagree that it would take 185 years to go 4 miles north of Costco, yes.
Okay. Do you have so no, I know that there have been discussions in your family about the value, and I know that this is still, it's not an approved subdivision yet. So if I were to say to 8N2E, and I were to say, hey, I want to buy that 500 acres with your plans that you have, what's the price?
Upwards of $30 million or beyond. I mean, the value of this thing is unbelievable. First of all, let's say it doesn't even evolve to be, R1 residential. Let's say it ends up being commercial. This geography, these streets, these plans, it could be Kirkwood North. I mean, We don't know yet. It's constantly evolving. But yeah, a neighbor subdivision to the west has lots for sale, 1 acre lots, acre and a half maybe, for around $100,000, $110,000 per acre lot.
How far from 8N2E?
Mile and a half maybe. It's right on 83 on 110th Avenue. I mean, it's right. You can see
You know the name of it?
Heritage
Subdivision?
Preserve.
What is it?
Heritage Preserve.
So that's a mile and a half?
Yeah, they're on between Highway 83 and 26th Street when it's fully, expanded and developed. And we are only going to be a mile east of that.
So
Same latitude.
those lots are obviously going to beat 180.
Oh yeah, but now they have, they probably have, infrastructure already in place, and that's why it's $110,000 a lot or an acre. But we know that there's infrastructure that we would need to do, roadways to get into the neighborhood based on county rules. But because the lots are so large, they're septic tanks. They're not going to be sewers. They're not going to be a community sewer. This is going to be individual landowner having to take care of his own septic systems and everything. It's different than the ranch. That's a whole different concept. This is a concept that doesn't exist. It will exist, but it doesn't exist yet. And as long as there's no pipeline, it will happen.
Now, I'm going to ask a question that was something that taught me a lot, and I think it'll help the commission understand a little bit more of the dynamics too. So when I was talking to you about this land, it turns out that and your family knows all of the families and all of the neighbors for 50 miles, it seemed like either way.
We grew up there. A lot of these people are related. I mean, we went to grade school, we went to junior high, we went to high school, we went to dances together. This is a family. This is why when Summit sat in our kitchen and we explained to them, look, we just can't have this subdivision on this land. We just can't have it. Originally it wasn't on our property, but somehow some people conspired and moved it off their land because they didn't want it. And they said, yeah, it's fine, put it on 8 and 2, put it on SPLJ, put it on these people. How rude. So when they came to our house and we asked them, politely and emphatically, we understand your problem. We know the whole new Green Deal. We know the cards were dealt as a country. But it's not going to be on Section 24 for all these reasons. And you know what they asked us? Well, tell us who owns that land over there or that land over there. Maybe they'd be receptive. And we said, look, we're not going to tell you that. That's your job. But if you'd have done this right in the first place, if you'd have come to people and said, we're thinking about a pipeline and we would like to get a 99-year lease from you, they probably could have had some takers. They could probably be laying pipe today. But instead, they decided to sit in Ames, Iowa, draw a line on a map across the United States and across 8 and 2 and all the way over to the river and all the way over to Center and say, that's where this pipeline's going. We had no advance notice. I can take you through the timeline of every date, of every piece of contact that we received from them. And most of it is disingenuous and innuendo, but there's one thing that they said was true. If you don't give us your land for us to survey within 15 days, we're going to sue you. And so they sued us because we didn't voluntarily give them our property. And when John Hoeven made this statement on July 26th of 2022 that said, private property rights must be respected and participation in the Summit Carbon Solutions project should be voluntary. And I am concerned about the use of litigation to compel access to private property. And less than 30 days later, we're sued for survey and condemnation and eminent domain. So they're throwing our senator under the bus. They're making him look ineffective and foolish because he said this on TV and they ignored it. They went and sued us and everybody else on this route. Can you believe that? I mean, we're asking you to just deny this outright. I know the county says let's move it 10 miles past the ETA, which would end up making it 9 miles past our house or our land. But there's so much wrong with this project. North Dakota doesn't want any part of this. And I know that Hoeven's been involved since 2008, and they've cracked the code and all this, but it's all tax code. It's all taxpayer money funding their private industry, private enterprise that has no commercial, or I should say public benefit. The public benefit for this land is our subdivision. It's benefit to the county. It's benefit to the tax rolls. But it's no benefit for a pipeline.
I just want to interrupt you real quick and ask a question. You brought up the discussion with the county as it sits right now today.
Sir.
And I know that Summit has yesterday afternoon filed something to ask the PSC to preempt both Emmons County and Burley County. As it sits right now, does the county have a setback requirement for this CO2 pipeline?
Well, the county has an ordinance that they've passed back in March that says 2 miles from a structure. Well, this whole subdivision is only a mile square.
So if as things sit right now, if they get their pipeline put in diagonally across the 8N2E, you have no possible...
No, absolutely not. But you know what? The guy that got it moved off his land, he wouldn't either. Yeah, because he's just across the fence. He's not a mile or a half mile or 2 miles. He's where you are.
So if the PSC can preempt for the pipeline, they can't fix all the individual county issues everyone else is left with.
I guess. I think what the PSC should do is honor the grassroots government that says we have an ordinance. This is our county. I know their state. This county, this commission should have the ruling authority. Constitutionally, in my opinion, should have the determination to make its own zoning laws. And that should stand.
And I know, Lon, that you've waited for a long time. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to the commissioner?
I know you saw what you've done to my wife and my family. And there are 7 members of that partnership, and there's 29 descendants, and some of them aren't here today. But I want you to understand, every one of these people was born, raised, educated, married, a lot of them, in Bismarck, North Dakota. They all went to school here in this town. Every one of them, all 7 partners. Some of them have chosen to leave North Dakota because they had good jobs, because they were hard workers, they got promoted, and they ended up out of state, but their heart is on this 8 and 2. You don't understand, I don't think, the depth of love that this family had for their parents and their grandparents. I know they can't comprehend it, because if they did, they wouldn't be doing things like this. They wouldn't be ramming this bullying pipeline across property that's, selfishly for us, it's our livelihood. But for the whole community to be put in jeopardy for this pipeline, and they can say, oh, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. They don't know. They've never done it. And nobody knows, is it safe just because they say, oh, it's safe? It's not. We're getting the hard sell from this. We, North Dakota, is getting the hard sell. And when you get a hard sell, something must be getting ready to turn really rotten. And they want you to cite this thing so they can get ahead of the PHMSA rules that are just being thought of now. They like to say that, oh, well, this pipeline, it's the same, every other pipeline in Bismarck, we all follow the same rules. But even PHMSA knows that this is not the same as gasoline, natural gas, or oil. Those things break, clean it up, big deal, we're back together. This is a whole different thing, and the federal government understands that, and they're now taking testimony and trying to write the rules. If nothing else, you should absolutely deny this until the rules are written for CO2, not just in general what a pipeline should be like. We are putting Bismarck at risk, and I don't think you guys want to be the people that say, wow, geez, we really screwed up and we put that pipeline in, and now it is 8 years later, and boom, it broke, and now, oh boy, look at Bismarck. You don't want that responsibility. We don't want it on our land for 99. Do you think that we want to build some kind of a relationship with Summit Carbon Solutions after everything they've done to us and our community for 99 years? And I don't even want to get to the point about, the sequestering site. That's going to pop through too eventually. It's already happened in some parts of the world where CO2 just voluntarily pops out of the air. It's all theory. It's never been done. It's just wrong for Bismarck. I know we're dealt this nationally from our country. It's our government now thinks that this climate is, it's our fault that, the climate's changing. Other countries don't care. They're running coal mines every day. They're building new oil and coal gas all over in Asia. But whereas our country, we're taking the lead in this, and I've been through all this. I've been through the global warming. I've been through the global glooming. I've been through acid rain. I've been through it all. And this carbon capture is just the next thing. But except it's trillions and trillions of dollars that our money, of our taxpayer money, this country doesn't have. This debt ceiling thing and the whole works. The first thing they like to say is, well, if we don't do this, we've got to cut Social Security. We've got to cut Medicare. They never say we're going to cut the new Green Deal. And that's what's put us in the hole we're in now. This chasing this climate thing, that God is the only one that fixes the climate. And I'm just gonna shut up after I say this. In the Bible, the prophet Micah, chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. Just listen to this. Woe to those who plan iniquity. They covet fields and seize them. Houses, and they take them. They cheat an owner of a house, a man of his inheritance. Therefore, says the Lord, behold, I am planning against this race an evil for which they shall not withdraw, nor shall they walk with head held high. It will be a time of evil. And this is what this is, in my opinion. This is evil. And their tactics are even more ruthless and evil. And I know that they're doing it because they can't even comprehend the way we think. It's beyond them. They think everybody wants to monetize and get this and get that. This is taking CO2 out of the air that's been already, how long we've been doing ethanol? And all this CO2 has been landing right back on the cornfields, and we get these lustrous crops. It's been going fine all these years. Why now? You know why it's now? Because the government says they can take taxpayer money and put it in their pocket, and they get rich, and we all get ripped. And it's time to stop.
No further questions.
All right. Mr. Bender, any objection to the exhibit?
No objection.
Any questions?
Just actually no questions. Madam Examiner, we've now had 4 witnesses from the interveners. It's all been on one track. We're not going to get done if we continue this way. So I have done what I can to limit my questions, but I can't do it by myself. I'm going to need some help from the hearing officer. Move this along.
All right. Mr. Pelham, any objection to the exhibit?
No objection.
Any questions?
Just briefly, sir,
Yes, sir.
The concept, subdivision concepts, it looks like there's a date. The first one is concept 1, date 1/19/23. Is that when this was done?
That's when the survey guy dated it. We've had hand-drawn plans for 30 years.
Sure.
And so, when we had our meetings originally with the county, we had all kinds of concept drawings and stuff, and they said, well, you got to have a surveyor do it, a registered North Dakota surveyor, not the kind that they use that are on our land yesterday from Texas.
And you mentioned the infrastructure, utilities, et cetera. What, if you can tell the commission, what the LLP has done in terms of work to develop potential infrastructure for the concept?
Well, because these are 1-acre lots, the infrastructure that the subdivision bid would be required to do is to pave a road, a mile of road that doesn't even benefit us, really. I mean, we have a little bit of that road, but they want us to pave the whole road. And then the internal roads we'd have to do. So there's a lot of expense there. But as far as, water, there's rural water already on the property from the Burleigh County Rural Southwestern Water System or whatever the heck it's called. And then the landowner would be responsible for their own, septic system and stuff.
I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Pranis, any objection to the exhibit?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Bakke, any objection to the exhibit?
No objections.
All right, the exhibit is received. Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. And before we get to commissioner questions, just to clarify, Mr. Leibel, the first 2 pages I have in my packet are the same. I don't know if that's correct or if.
No, there's 3 different pages.
No, on this one.
It's the house designs. The 2 I have are the same,
We must do when we.
just doubled up. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
It'll be a booklet of choose your house plan, and we've actually laid it out. The subdivision is laid out in a way that, we could allow for slight variances in home design and/or price point, depending upon how the market goes over the next 10, 15,
Sure.
20 years.
I'm just going to, from the official exhibit, I'll just pull out the duplicate page.
Yeah, those are just examples.
Commissioner Chrisman, any questions?
No other questions, thank you.
Commissioner Haugen-Hoffert?
Yes, I do. You said in your testimony that you could provide a timeline of dates.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you to submit that through your attorney. I would like to see the timeline
I
of
have a deck here of the timeline and every piece of correspondence from or to Summit Carbon Solutions.
I would like to see that, please.
It can
Be
be,
submitted.
for sure. He already has it.
All right. Mr. Dawson, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Any redirect, Mr. Leibel?
I have nothing. Thank you, Lon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Klussmann.
Thank you.